What's good, you guys? Daniel Cruz here, back with another episode of Cook with Cruz. Another Sunday, another breakdown, and today we're going to be breaking down an R&B guitar sample. Shout out to Carlos in the comments. He's the one that suggested that we break down one of these today. So this sample is going to be from the Surge sample pack. This is probably the most R&B one in that pack, and you already know the drill. Links in the top right in the description if you want to check out the entire pack. And for this one specifically, CJ is the one who played out the guitar and sent it over to me. So even though I myself didn't play the guitar, I'm still going to break down the theory in which he played and the chords and everything, and why it caught my ear and how I developed all the chords and everything. So I'll be sure to go into full detail with this, especially since it's just a sample and not a full beat. So yeah, you guys get to see today how I'm gonna break down one of my R&B guitar samples. So make sure you hit that like button for me before we jump in. I greatly appreciate it. Definitely keeps the series going, and make sure you're subscribed as always. But without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so getting right into it, basically the process of how we made this pack was CJ would send me guitars for me to basically develop into kind of full compositions for a sample pack. So let me go ahead and play the guitar loop that he originally sent me that sparked everything for this sample. Oh, and before I forget, if you happen to be following along and you have the pack, this is the I Just Wanna sample in the Surge pack. So here goes the guitar right here. So there it is right there. And even though I didn't necessarily play the guitar, I'm going to do my best to explain the theory and the chords behind the guitar and why I ended up choosing and vibing out with this one and just making it a full sample. So when I first heard the guitar, I already know what the progression is, essentially what the chords are. I just essentially have to find what key it is. It's kind of hard to explain, but I would say that would come mostly from experience. I've been playing the keys for a really long time, especially studying R&B chords and all that. I remember the first song I learned to play that was R&B because I wanted to learn, R&B chords and everything, was Lovers and Friends by Usher and Lil Jon, and that came out like back in 2007, 2008, whatever year that was. So came out a long time ago. So I've came a long way, I guess, playing the keys and studying chords. And the more you do that, the more you hear stuff like this, guitar samples or songs even, you'll be able to identify a commonality between all of them, and you'll be able to hear certain chord progressions that end up sounding pretty familiar. So I'm hearing this, I know what it is. I've worked with progressions like this before. I like these kind of progressions, so that's what kind of gave me that spark, like, oh, okay, let's go ahead and make this a full composition and develop it. So I hope I did my best kind of explaining, I guess, the theory behind it. But if we go back into the guitar, I did throw some effects on here. So first off, in the mixer, this is our bass EQ right here. I thought this range right here was a little harsh, so I did cut some. I also wanted all the low muddy sound out of the guitar because, of course, I wanted to add my own bass, so we want to leave room for that. So cut everything below 100 hertz. Just a little bit of reverb here. This is a compressor, if you happen to have this plugin. I just used the preset Bite and Sustain. This is a very light compression, and this is just to kind of keep the dynamics of the guitar from being too extreme, so everything's kind of leveled out. And this second EQ is automated. You can see it's turned off right here. Essentially, this is kind of like a low pass. Everything above 1K is cut. And we're going to automate that later in the sample, which I'll go over, of course. So again, this clip right here, which I just played, that's what it's going to sound like with all the effects that I just went over. And now for a nice background percussive touch, we have this clip right here. I am like 99.9% sure this is from Splice. But if we look into it, I've done this before, pitched it all the way down a whole octave to kind of filter out a lot of the highs and give it more of like a vintagey feeling, I guess. If we look into our mixer, more EQ, cutting more highs out here, and our stock fruity flanger. So here's what our little percussive background is going to sound like. So now moving on, the next thing I wanted to add was some bass. Now we went for a more live bass sound, which you can see right here. We're in the Scarby Breakenbacker bass. This is the palm muted preset, by the way. This is one of those things where you can't go wrong because guitar, live bass, piano, all those timeless instruments, they're all just gonna sound good together. So now we're gonna come up with a simple bass line to go with the guitar. Okay, so there goes our bass right there. Next thing I added to the sample was some Rhodes. Again, Rhodes, timeless instrument. It's probably gonna work out. And with this, I'm just going to layer up the chords on the guitar. So for our Rhodes, we are in contact with the Vintage Keys bank right here, Dreamatizer preset. We did add a little bit to the effects here, just a little bit of reverb and some EQ cutting out a lot of the highs here. I really want this section to be for the guitar so we can hear the guitar better. Again, with these, just layering up the chords on the guitar. So there goes our Rhodes there, and as you can hear, we're getting a nice full sound. And the next thing we're gonna add is a piano. Can't go wrong with that. So this is gonna be more kind of like melodic embellishing type of thing. The piano here is just gonna add like a nice touch to everything. So of course we are in Keyscape LA Custom C7 Cinematic is the preset. Reverb, good amount there, just to give us a nice airy feel. But now here's what the piano is gonna sound like. So you can see, nice and simple, adds a clean touch to it. And now moving on to the end of the sample here. This is where that automation I mentioned in the beginning is going to turn on. Basically, the guitar is going to be low passed, so it's going to be filtered out a bit. We're going to add one more instrument right here, which is going to sound pretty nice. It's a pluck lead. The preset I'm using here in Omnisphere, I guess that's Siren Broken Melodies, but did add some effects here. EQ, cut all the lows out below 500 hertz. A good amount of reverb here. Also some Echo Boy Jr. for some delay. And this is going to be just a nice melodic touch to it. It's really going to stand out too because of the guitar being filtered out. So here's what our lead in the filtered guitar is now going to sound like. So it ended up sounding pretty nice there. And the last thing that I added to the sample was an actual vocal chop here, just so producers can kind of mess around with. Even can probably use this as a hook. So the vocal chop was something that I found in Arcade. If you have Arcade, this is in the hooked bank with the right words would be the preset bank, I guess. But there was a vocal phrase I found in there that sounded pretty dope. So I ended up rendering it to audio here just to fix a little bit of timing. Also made sure it was in key and everything. And then for our effects, we have some EQ, really just cut everything out except this range right here, and some reverb, a lot of reverb actually. So here's what that phrase is going to sound like. And that's where the name came from, I Just Wanna, for the sample. So all together, let's hear what the end of this sample is gonna sound like. So there it all goes right there. I just want a guitar R&B sample, all broken down. So you guys can see how we went from a basic guitar loop to a full blown out composition that we can mess with, make a beat out of. So there it is right there. And again, guys, please hit up my comments with any suggestions of what you want to see me break down next. More samples, more beats, any songs. So please hit me up in the comments. Greatly appreciate you guys' feedback on everything too. So if you enjoyed today's breakdown, of course, please make sure you leave a thumbs up on the video. It helps keep the series going. And make sure you're subscribed with the bell notification turned on so you can let YouTube know to let you know that you want to see these episodes every Sunday. So without further ado, that is all for me today. I will see you guys next week. I'm out. Peace.